Hello, we're live. Oh my gosh.
And Kiki's here too.
Yes,
Hi, Kiki.
the most important. Oh,
Hi there, I am Cherie,
and I'm Chris.
and we are your hosts and founders of the Mobile Internet Resource Center, which we started 10 years ago.
It's been
10
We've been doing
years.
this a friggin' long time, and we've been nomadic. It's been coming up on 18 years. Is when I first hit the road, April 1st, 2006, way back. So we've been living, working, playing, doing everything nomadically, whether by RV and now boat, dividing our time between RV and boat. So we have done just about everything. We've been just about everywhere. No,
In the
actually, we
US.
haven't.
No,
We're just getting started because there's
getting
so
started.
much friggin' to see.
But anyway, we are attempting our first live to the Mobile Internet Resource Center. We are simulcasting to YouTube and Facebook. So wherever you're joining in, welcome into our living room here in our boat, which we are currently docked in Central Florida, where we just got back from a 5-month cross-country van trip.
And yeah, so we're going to talk today about the results of that trip, kind of a real world case study of were we able to keep connected and what actually did we use to keep connected and what worked, what didn't work, and just using this as a real world example of a trip with keeping her connected as we traveled. And
so what we did is at each stop is we recorded what we used to get online at that stop. Now, this was not a comprehensive head-to-head. We did not test everything that we had at each stop. No. We did 47 stops. That would have been crazy and taken up way too much time. No. Our goal was what would work reliably enough to get us online, to work remotely, stream entertainment, keep in touch with friends and family, plan our next stop.
Yeah, and actually the ultimate win at each stop would be if what worked at the prior stop continued to work, so we didn't even have to think about it. That's the ultimate goal of mobile internet, is when you don't have to think about it, that is a win. But spoiler alert, there was no single universal set it and forget it option here.
Yeah, I was kind of really hoping that we would have more like, oh, what worked last time worked. And it didn't quite turn out that way. So first of all, where did we go? This is an overview of our trip. We left in August, late August, just as the heat and hurricane season was ramping up here in Florida. So then we went across country, and in early October, we went to the Eclipse Fest 23 in Klamath Falls, Oregon. That was our destination for the fall. So we had like 6 weeks to get there.
Yeah, so which is kind of a rapid trip for us. Get across from all the way across through the country, visit some family in St. Louis, and then after Eclipse Fest, down to our we've got a RV lot at the Escapee Saguaro Park down in Arizona. Spent 2 months there for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then back across and going to Big Bend and across the South back to Florida. So it was a wonderful trip. This is what we love, having the van to divide our time between the van and the boat and get around and get out and mix up our types of travel. So
it was about 8,200 miles over 5 months, and we had 47 unique stops that we made. And these stops were a variety of locations. Some were urban RV parks, very few of them, but we love staying in public campgrounds, so national parks, Army Corps of Engineer parks, state parks, boondocking. We did a lot of Harvest Hosts, and as you'll see, we're kind of addicted to hot springs. We did a lot of hot springs.
Yes, so we're going to talk about what worked and kind of keep score across the trip, so you can kind of understand that there is no universal winner. So let's talk about the gear that we did.
Yeah. So what gear did we travel with?
This was the quick run. Yeah. So here's kind of the ultimate score. We're going to go into a little bit of details of what worked. One, was there an unreliable connection? And there were actually 2 places where nothing in our complete bag of tricks let us get online.
And we had to cancel meetings or move on. So at 14 stops, we were able to just use the same connection that we had set up the last stop. No tweaking necessary. We just pulled in, got online, we're fine, didn't have to worry about it.
Those are happy days. It's like the internet just works. I don't even have to remember what's going on.
4 locations where we could not get a reliable enough connection to work remotely or do the things we needed to do. 2 of those locations, we had to actually cancel business meetings or move to another location. So even with all the options that we're about to show you that we had in our travels, and you'll see we have 1 of everything, actually probably 3 of everything, we still could not get a reliable enough connection enough times that everywhere. It is still a concern. There is no single best mobile internet option. That is the point of this case study.
Okay, video's over. Go back.
They're done.
No, but there's on the other hand, that was really only 2 days we had to cancel events, and only 4 places where it was really too unreliable. We went to some exotic places and we're able to get work done and be productive and be entertained and stream a whole lot of
Not yet.
places.
And we were able to go to some places that we have not been able to go into the past because Starlink. Now,
Yes.
our members have been able to follow along on this entire trip. All these testing notes that I've been making over, I put into a nice spreadsheet. Our members have access to it. If you're one of our MI members who make this all possible, thank you, first of all. And also, you can go to rvmobileinternet.com/case study, and that will take you right to the forum post where we have been documenting this all. And there's a link to the spreadsheet if you want to go in depth on each of the stops that we made and what worked and tweaks what we did.
Now let's talk quickly about the gear that we had in our van that kept us connected. Now this is admittedly overkill. This is a lot of stuff to put, a lot of connectivity to put in a van. We were capable of bonding and bringing together 11 different connections just because that's our job. We test it and play with all this stuff. But what the core gear here.
Yeah, so if you want to follow along and see links to all this stuff, what the costs are, the specs on it, stuff like that, go to technomadia.com/internet. That's our personal travel blog where we keep this all updated. But the core is we are using a Peplink Max BR2 Pro. Now, this is their enterprise level dual
5G router.
When we left the road in August, it was an X55 based 5G modem. On the way back from Arizona, it was an X62. So the upgraded one, if you don't understand the difference, we have a whole video on that.
Yes. So yeah, we've been testing both generations of the BR2 Pro. We've got two different 4x4 MIMO antennas that are connected to it for the two 5G modems. So we've got a Parsec Akita and a Peplink Mobility 42G.
Both of them have 4 antennas going to each of the modems. The Akita is on a pole that we can raise higher, and the Mobility is just on the roof of our Travado van.
Yeah. Also on that pole is InstiConnect, which has got its own integrated 5G modem. So the InstiConnect 4x4 PoE modem that is brand new. That is on the pole mount. So that plugs into one of the Ethernet WAN ports. The Starlink plugs into one of the Ethernet WAN ports. And then we had a whole collection of, actually I had 4 different hotspots on board, 5G hotspots, as well as a Peplink Max adapter. So we had a whole lot of different connectivity.
Now, to understand how we use Starlink in our setup. Now, our Starlink is not permanently mounted to our van. We actually have to take it out of the back, which involves moving the bike rack out of the way, opening the doors, getting it out, getting it set up. We usually put on top of the pole. So I should say, he usually puts it on top of the pole.
I could deploy Starlink to the pole in just under 5 minutes. It is, it's setup time, and then you got to wait for Starlink to boot and get online. So, but we can get Starlink set up to the pole pretty quickly. If we need to set it up other than on the pole, if we need to use the ground deploy tripod, which we still have, it's, we got to run out the cables, and it's a much bigger setup and teardown process. But it's still
we don't use Starlink by default. We only use it when we can't get online with our cellular options. So it is not our default. It is our backup plan because we have extra deployment to go through, and it does use a lot of power. We boondock a lot, and our Travado has we have the Volta lithium battery system in it that can run a lot, but it is a power draw, so we have to compensate for it. So Starlink only comes out when cellular is failing us.
It's our Swiss Army knife thing. And we also had a cell booster in here, and it never really mattered much. We tried it in one place, and it didn't even help there. So yeah, okay. Now, about the data plans.
All right, so we have data plans on all of the carriers. We have more plans than this. If you go to our internet page at Technomadia blog, you can see all the plans that we carry with us. But we're going to focus on these. These are the ones that we primarily use. We have a grandfathered in unlimited plan on Verizon that you can't get anymore, so I'm not going to tease you with that. But there are other Verizon options out there. We have the T-Mobile Business Unlimited Internet Plan. This is very similar to the very popular T-Mobile Home Internet Plan, except for it's on business. Same cost, $60 per month, unlimited data, no throttling, always network managed. However, the difference is you can use a SIM card in any device.
So you can use that in a router like the BR2.
So if you can qualify as a business, we recommend that over T-Mobile Home.
Easy to qualify as a business with T-Mobile.
We also carry the Calyx Institute plan, which is the nonprofit. It's an unlimited data plan. You pay annually up front. It comes out to about $43 a month. That is on a mobile hotspot device. You have to use it on that device. On AT&T, we have their Business Unlimited plan. Again, qualified as a business. It's, I think, $65 a month we're paying, and we have the 50 megabit per second plan. So we'll never see speeds above 50 megabit per second, but that's plenty for what we need to do.
It is a 5G compatible plan.
And it is unlimited. We also have a Legacy Unlimited Plus plan and a Mobility plan.
And those are limited to 4G. They won't connect to 5G.
So we use those only in places where we only have LTE only coverage. And then we have Starlink. Now with Starlink, We choose to keep ours on the residential standard plan, which is $120 per month, but always gives us higher priority data. They call it standard priority data, which is higher priority than the mobile plan, which is what most RVers and boaters pick.
But you can only use this Starlink standard plan at your registered home address. If you're away from your home address, you cannot connect. So that would seem like, how can you use this on a road trip? Well, it's easy because Starlink lets you change your home address just by dragging a dot on a map anytime you want to. So just either before a new location or once we got to a new location, we would just put the dot where we're at, and that Starlink standard plan is working. So it's a little extra setup than the Starlink.
Since we're always doing setup anyway,
Yes.
so we choose that because it gets us a little bit higher data speeds. That matters to us, especially on the
Significantly better
upload
data
because we're
plans.
doing broadcast and video work. So we choose it that way. We go through the little extra hassle, but to have the higher priority and the lower cost. If you need to know more about Starlink plans or any of the plans or the current plans out there, rvmobileinternet.com/plan picks has all of our current top pick data plans, and we put a video out on this channel every few months going over all the current topics. They change all the time.
Yeah, and there was one other plan that we carried with us that we used quite a bit. We didn't really record it separately because it was more of like a bonus plan, but it was the Dish Network plan. Dish is the new nationwide fourth carrier. We've got a plan they no longer offer that is a hotspot plan that works great in our router. It is dirt cheap, it's unlimited data, and it roams onto AT&T. And often on AT&T, the Dish plan would be faster than our AT&T native plan because our AT&T native plan is capped at 50 megabits per second, and the Dish plan is roaming with no speed caps. So we've got a lot of fun with that Dish plan, but you can't get it anymore.
Yeah,
So we're
so
not going
quit
to talk
teasing
about it too
people
much.
stuff they can't get.
Okay, let's go on.
All right, so we've broken the trip up into segments, and these are broken up basically how I blogged them on the Technomadia blogs. If you want to follow along, you want to know about any of the stops, where we went, the places we saw, what we did there, travel tips, stuff like that, go to Technomadia. Each of these segments is documented.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about each individual stop here on this video. We're going to focus on the places that proved to be a challenge and talking about what we had to pull out of the bag of tricks to keep connected.
All right, so first segment, we left Florida at the start of peak hurricane season and went up to St. Louis to visit family. All along there, cellular just works. Mostly when you are east of the Mississippi, you have higher chances of cellular just working. Now, it might have been one cellular carrier or another that was better. We did have to tweak things quite a bit, but connectivity is pretty easy. Starlink, we weren't even tempted to bring it out because, well, trees.
Yeah, this trip started in summer on the eastern half of the U.S. Parking under trees was one of our top priorities, and so yeah, Starlink was not ideal at all, and was usually most places would be like, it wouldn't even be worth trying here. So yeah, East Coast Starlink summer trees, not even worth it.
All right, next segment.
Hey,
this is where stuff starts to get a little complicated. So how I have done these route maps is I put circles around the problem spots. This is what my dentist did when they were diagnosed as which tooth I needed a root canal this week on. So you circle the ones that we had problems with, and then I marked what actually we got to work kind of okay there. So this is leaving St. Louis to the segment going to Salt Lake City.
So the first place that we actually had a significant challenge getting connected was right along the Missouri River at, was it Cooper's Landing?
Cooper's Landing. Great access to the Katy biking trail, which is why we stopped there. They have live music there. We got a nice waterfront spot on the river. It was gorgeous. But there were trees right over, so no Starlink option there. And the cellular there, all the carriers just kind of sucked. I think you got a little bit on T-Mobile there.
Yeah, particularly because we had a video call, a video conference.
We were doing the Van Life Summit back in September, so we had a live broadcast.
So we had coverage primarily on T-Mobile, but it's only, even with all of our gear, we're only able to get about 1.5 meg upload, and so we're like, okay, that is not a good option for doing a broadcast. So one of our pro tips is always do some testing before you have important work calls. And we're like, okay, in the morning we're going to have to leave early and go someplace where we have good signal so we can do this. So we planned ahead. We didn't have to panic when that work call came up, and we're like,
so we left earlier in the morning. We got our bike ride in, left earlier in the morning, and went to a rest stop along I-70. And we're able to get online with AT&T only at that location. So we used 2 of our connections, bonded them together for redundancy in case there was a dropout. And we had a very smooth broadcast for the Van Life Summit, which we will be on the Van Life Summit here later this month. They're doing it again. I think it's like the 21st. We'll be presenting again specifically on mobile internet for a
Yeah.
van.
Yeah, and that was indeed the first place. And people are saying, like, well, why didn't you move the dish? You know, these big, giant, towering oak trees along the river, there was no spot
Miles
within
and miles of trees.
70 feet of where the cable could reach from our
Yeah.
van, where a Starlink would have not had dropouts. We might have been able to get online a little, but dropouts
Nothing,
are a
nothing
major
that we
deal.
could broadcast a
Yes,
presentation over. I'm not
exactly.
going to trust that.
Dropouts every
Yeah,
3 minutes for
yeah,
15 seconds are
yeah,
not good for a
yes.
video
All
broadcast.
right, so further on through Kansas, we had recent connectivity, great stuff there. We get to Colorado Springs. Actually, we went and visited our Mobile Internet Resource Center team member, Andy McNabb, who is right now moderating under the Mobile Internet Resource Center name, both on Facebook and YouTube. So we went and visited him there. And then afterwards, we went over to Woodland Park, just kind of over the mountain range to the
Forest
south.
Service campground,
It was
wasn't
Forest Service campground. Note the word forest.
it?
South Meadow Campground. There,
Big towering trees.
again,
Yes.
lots and lots and lots of trees. And we could get Starlink up just enough. I could actually I had a small video I needed to upload. It was, I think, an archive for one of our member broadcasts that we do. And we were able to get that up for our members to have the archive of that webinar. But that was it.
Yeah, different kind of usage. So like doing big uploads or downloads, or sometimes even just streaming, you don't need to have a pure connection without dropouts. But where you're doing a video chat or particularly a broadcast, dropouts are doom. So like if you just set Starlink, and even if the Starlink is down 30% of every minute, an upload will eventually finish. And it may take way, way, way longer than normal. But we were able to do that and still get by in this remote meadow with no cellular.
Yeah, and all the cellular, I mean, we could get like a whiff of signal here and there, but nothing that was reliable. So that was one of our problem spots. And then South Fork, Utah, number 9 there. We stopped over there after a long driving day before getting into Antelope State Park along the
Antelope Island.
Yeah, Antelope Island. That was gorgeous. But Spanish Fork was just a quick overnight, cute little campground. It was dry camping. We had running trails there, so it was great. But all we could get to work there was AT&T, and it was just enough. I think we were able to stream.
Starlink, probably there was not so many trees that we could have actually set up Starlink at the end of the 70-foot cable and gotten a good clear signal, but it wasn't worth the effort for a single night to do that.
Yeah, we didn't have anything.
We didn't have to work, so we had a good enough AT&T to stream. So hey, AT&T for the win there. Yes. Now let's go on to segment 3. Things get more interesting as you get further west.
Okay, this one. Miracle Hot Springs is not a miracle for internet at all. So this is a cute little hot spring area. They have little private hot springs that you can rent.
West of Twin Falls, in very volcanic area. And this is kind of a canyon where the river was carved through.
Volcanic rock.
Yes.
So that volcanic rock blocks cell signal. So as soon as you come down into the campground, there's no cell signal. I don't care how tall we put up our antenna. We could not get cell signal at the campground.
And this was an issue because we actually booked 2 nights there because we were planning like, hey, great, hot springs. We'll get a full work day. And we had a whole bunch of work calls scheduled. And we probably should have done a little bit better homework in advance. But it was hard. We actually wouldn't have seen this from the maps because down in the bowl where the campground is, no signal. Just a quarter mile up the road in every direction, signal. And we're also thinking, well, hey, Starlink. But hey, down in the bowl where the campground is, big, thick trees in a lot of directions. And we made a little video because this campground, or this hot spring was named of, you'll need a miracle to get connected. Here's a little taste of the frustrations. So yeah, there's, you think it's pretty good. You can see the sky, but there's pretty big, thick trees every different directions. We tried the Starlink 70, all the different places we could put it.
So you're putting the cellular antenna to our router as well as the Starlink on top, trying to get anything we could.
No, we even tried the cell booster, and we're like, we don't need to. We just walked a quarter mile up the road, got online just enough with our phones, and making a call to say, let's cancel the meeting today. We're not going to break camp and drive away from this hot springs that we booked 2 nights at. We'll just reschedule. Fortunately, those were calls we could, and just made the best of it. And hey, so we're stuck in hot springs. That's awful.
Darn. Woe is us. Cry, cry, cry me a river.
Yeah. And you'd think like the trees didn't look too bad. You'd think Starlink could be able to get online a little bit. We'd get little whiffs of signal for just 10 or 15 seconds at a time. Starlink, you couldn't finish loading a web page. It was just thick enough, big enough trees to be so frustrating that we're like, not worth it. And the booster, not worth it. Just hints of cell signal. We spent hours fiddling and just said,
All right.
fail.
And then we had a really successful trip through the rest of Idaho and into Oregon, by the Crane Crystal Hot Springs in Burns, Oregon. Excellent cell signal there. So if you need hot springs and signal, go right there. All right, we probably should do a guide to hot springs and cell
Hot
signal.
springs with cell signal. Hey,
you'll see. We go to a lot of hot springs. All right, and then the destination, the Eclipse Fest outside of Klamath Falls, a gorgeous little area that we were at. Lots of RVers there because it was an organized RVing event, and they parked us right along a line of tall aspen trees that blocked half of the sky. So all of us using Starlink.
And there was a dozen Starlinks there. It was kind of
most
amusing.
of us had significant dropouts. The cell signal was kind of weak there, and it was saturated because there's so many people there using it for a big event. I mean, this was a big event. Smash Mouth played at it. It was a fun event with a lot of friends.
The sun didn't show up though. Yes. The clouds were...
We were able to get online enough. We did have to cover a breaking story there. We were able to do that. But my niece was born while I was there, and I was not able to do a FaceTime with my family from there to meet her. So that's how bad the signal was.
Well, and again, with Starlink, you'd have a view of half the sky, drop out, and then gone again. So it was the people on the other side of the field had perfect Starlink because they didn't have that giant line of trees. People on our side of the field, particularly
but they had cow patties.
They had giant cow patties. Yeah. So again, we could have moved sites. But, we were here for the Eclipse Fest and for partying, and we had prime spots with our friends, camped in our friends, and we were like, we'll put up with the trees.
All right, next stop.
Let's see, segment 4.
Oh, lots of circles as you're going down. So we followed basically 395 down the Eastern Sierras. Gorgeous drive, lots of great places to stay.
Lots of being in the middle of nowhere.
And a lot of bad signal areas.
And a lot of places where Starlink really was our only way online. This is where Starlink was so indispensable for us in a lot of locations.
All right, so we decided after Eclipse Fest, we met up with some friends in Susanville. We decided a big town. We both had some work obligations that week. We picked a commercial RV park right downtown, Susanville. And cell signal there was great, but the connectivity was awful. All the carriers just dropped signal all the time.
So sometimes you get to an urban area and the connectivity is just it might just be the upstream of the town. The town's fiber backbone or something might be miserable. We don't really know. We didn't diagnose what was wrong with Susanville, but all the cell carriers had great signal and were equally awful for actual data. So, hey, pull out the Starlink. Now, I'm not going to fuss with all 4 cell carriers being awful. Starlink, and it was wonderful.
Yep, so we all worked on Starlink from there. And then we went just south of there to another hot spring, Sierra Hot Spring. This one had lots of trees, and it was also a boondocking location. So Starlink wasn't very useful there at all, but we did have enough T-Mobile to keep online. It was a weekend. We didn't do much. We were focused on hot springs.
Yes.
So, but T-Mobile worked just well enough there. It was the only carrier that worked. And then we went just south of there, outside of Mono Lake, is Lundy Lake Campground. Great little campground that is all forested, lots of trees, but some sites have some openings in them. But we were there in fall, and most of the leaves had already fallen. So we were able to get Starlink to work at our site. No cell signal whatsoever. You lose all cell signal once you leave the main highway. But yeah, Starlink, we're able to get online through the fall trees.
The dead spindly fall trees.
Well, they're not dead.
Yeah,
they're just
hibernating. Sleeping trees.
Hibernating trees.
Yes. So these are places that with a pre-Starlink era, we would have had to turn around and go back if we had work to do because no hint of cell. But hey,
we were going to stay there longer because it was working so well, but then it was predicted. A blizzard came through, so we left. All right, and then just south of there is another hot spring. This is Koch Hot Spring, just south of Bishop, California. Nothing worked there except for AT&T. There were a lot of trees. We probably could have gotten Starlink. We moved to a different site, but the site we're in.
Yeah.
But this is a stupid hot spring. They close at 6 p.m. They have an RV campground on site, but they close at 6 p.m. It was crazy.
And this is kind of one of the examples of places that you run across, particularly a lot out west, where there's either one cell carrier or another. Because a lot of these small towns and stuff, they have kind of legacy of which carrier invested in them. And then the other carrier's like, well, there's only 150 people in this town. We're not going to build a tower because all the customers are already on one carrier. So this little area was just AT&T. It really had just little hints of other carriers.
It's fine for a night when we were paying for a campsite to be at hot springs that we couldn't use overnight. Not that I'm not upset about that.
And so on.
All right, next stop is a place, Alabama Hills. It is a infamous RVing, boondocking
Oh,
spot. Gorgeous
beautiful.
rocks. It's a film scene. It is a place we've not been able to stay at before because internet there, the cell signal just doesn't reach through those rocks reliably enough.
You're in the shadow of Mount Whitney, and it's like one of the most beautiful places on the Eastern Sierra. Incredible, and we were able to stay there with great connectivity thanks to Starlink.
Yep. So Starlink, we were able to stay. I think we did 3 glorious nights there.
Yeah.
Just absolutely beautiful, stunning. Loved it. So this is a place where Starlink allowed us to go somewhere that we hadn't been able to visit in all our other years on the road.
And then
Same with the next one, Death Valley.
Yeah, Death Valley National Park has just tiny hints of 3G cellular that are basically there for emergency use only for
Phone service,
responders
basically?
and stuff. So no usable data, but Starlink means we can be there, work a little bit during the parts of the day, and still get out and enjoy the park. And it was beautiful. So, it is wonderful to have that tool in our toolbox.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely
Oh, yes.
useful.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
Not useless.
Yes.
All right, next stop.
Okay.
So this is
The final segment.
like only 2 weeks getting back here to Florida. We just completed this
We
segment.
spent 2 months in Arizona, and then
Yep. And then, so we finally also got to go down to Big Bend National Park, another place that is known for very poor cell signal, but Starlink rocks there. So we stayed in all 3 campgrounds there. Cottonwood gets a little bit of T-Mobile and AT&T signal from Terra Lingua. Not quite usable at the campground, so Starlink worked in all 3 of the locations there. There's no cell signal down at Rio Grande. End up at Chisos Basin. You do get some cell signal through the window, but it did register as roaming on our routers. So we didn't trust it. We didn't want to exceed our roaming allowances on our plans.
Your carriers can get a little testy with you if you use too much roaming data, even though they don't charge for it anymore. But if you see a roaming indicator, you don't want to go start streaming or doing anything like that, because behind the scenes, the carrier's paying somebody else for it. So
another score, place we had never been able to go before and spend time at. Starlink made it possible. So Starlink definitely increases the places that you can go, but
it's not going to be your only tool. And let's go here. You want to go straight into the scoring? So here is like, we're going to go through like the carriers and how well they worked for us. And Starlink is an invaluable tool. We think it is worthwhile for RVers who travel, for boaters who travel in places where signal is challenging. It is the thing you pull out when you don't have other options.
And it can be like, if you're staying primarily in open areas with clear skies, on a boat or out in the desert, it can be a pretty decent primary option. For us, the way we travel, we like to mix it up. We're in trees. We like to go places where there are other people. We like to go to big events where there's going to be congestion. So on this trip, we did take out Starlink 12 times. 9 of those times, it was the only option that we can get online. However, 3 of those, there were trees and we had
still had a lot of dropouts. It would not have been good for a broadcast like this. It might have been good for Netflix. Netflix is super tolerant of dropouts and stuff like that.
So consider that how you would like to. There were 13 locations that we were at that had too many trees that we would not have taken Starlink out at all if cellular hadn't been working there, or we didn't have the cellular options.
It would have been miserable Starlink experiences. Even if you get online, it's just too many dropouts to be too worthwhile.
And on a 47-stop trip, that's almost 25% of the locations where Starlink would not have provided a reliable enough connectivity option to work remotely the way we need to.
On the other hand, 34 of the places we went to, Starlink would have worked just great. Particularly if we took advantage of the 70-foot cable and didn't just have it on the pole on top of our van, and use the cable to try and get it around. But Starlink is still pretty tree sensitive, particularly if you do video work online, things that are or online gaming, or things that are subject to dropouts and pain from dropouts.
Right.
Yeah. Now let's take a look at AT&T. We worked 24 places. Didn't work 13.
Now keep in mind, if we got to our location and something just worked,
we didn't go test everything else.
So this is not saying that AT&T would have only worked at 24 locations. This is saying at 24 locations we utilized AT&T.
Yes.
But in the places where things were not working and we were testing, there were at least 13 places where AT&T did not work. But there were 3 places where AT&T was the only option for us to get online.
Yeah, there's because AT&T, but AT&T in particular, they invested. They got the federal contract to build FirstNet, the public safety network. So for their 4G network, they have put coverage in a lot of really remote places and pretty good coverage. The 4G network can be amazing. So AT&T's FirstNet, particularly if you know how to dial in your modem, you've got a cellular router that lets you customize the bands you're broadcasting over, and we've got a guide to how to do band locking with a Peplink router and stuff. You can lock onto FirstNet and sometimes get some amazing performance out of AT&T in places other carriers just can't do it.
All right, next, Verizon. Again, there were 31 locations where we used Verizon in our setup, and there were 11 where Verizon had not usable signal. And there were no locations on this particular trip where we relied only on Verizon.
Yep.
T-Mobile, similar numbers. 26 locations where we used it in our setup, 10 where we could not get it to work, and one option where it was our only
way online. And and T-Mobile, particularly in the places that they work, they're the ones who have led with their 5G. So sometimes you can get incredible speeds on T-Mobile, and they've put a lot of money into rural areas in particular. So sometimes it's quite great. So that was kind of the scorecard for the trip.
Yeah, so we will be open to taking questions after we wrap this up here really pretty soon. So thank you for joining in. If you have questions about mobile internet, we'll stick around for a little bit. But remember, none of what we do is possible without our mobile internet aficionados. These are the folks who fund us. You know, we get a little bit of advertising revenue from YouTube. That is not what keeps this content going. We're not incentivized by selling stuff. We don't sell any of this stuff. We don't have sponsorships. You won't see third-party advertising on our content except for what YouTube forces on us. But we are funded primarily by our members. That is where everything comes from. We have 8 of us on staff that keep on top of all this mobile internet stuff. You've probably seen some of them on this YouTube channel presenting some of the content that we do. For their support, our members get a lot of in-depth exclusive content. We have a whole bunch of educational guides that go deep. They get like access to this field testing report. They go really deep into each of these locations.
We have forums and we do private member webinars. We have
they get interactive guidance in our forums and our webinars. So if they got questions, they get a lot of in-depth interactive help with this. Instead of taking affiliate kickbacks, we partner with different vendors that we trust to give our members higher discounts. So basically, we give up our affiliate discounts and pass them on to our members, so they get discounts that can exceed
we don't want to
the membership costs.
We don't want to be focused on affiliates because we try to steer people to what works for them, not trying to get them to buy gear that gives us a kickback. So we do a lot for our members, but we also have a lot of stuff that is free. As you all know, we do all the video stuff here is completely free, and we do a ton of free stuff over at the Mobile Internet Resource site.
Yep.
So
we have classrooms. We have a video course that is now included with our membership program. So if you want a solid foundation on understanding all of this technology and how to go select your right mobile internet setup, we have the tools for you. Our members also get insider alerts. So a couple weeks ago, when T-Mobile was about to increase the price of their home internet plan, we got a tip on that about 36 hours in advance. We were able to let our members know so they could go out and get grandfathered in on the lower price. And we do send out a newsletter, a very in-depth newsletter, twice a month to our members to keep them updated. So if mobile internet is an important part of your lifestyle, please do come join us. Help us make this content possible. Come deeper with us and let us help you create your great mobile internet setup. We are offering a $10 discount this evening on new memberships. Use Merc Live if you join it.
Because we want to know if this is sort of live broadcast is valuable. We've not done live broadcasts like this on the Merc channel. We do them over just for fun on the Technomadia channel. So if live stuff like this is cool for you, that's one way to let us know, or just let us know, hey, I like this live, bring it back, do this more often, and stuff like that. So
absolutely.
We want to talk about coverage and how we research some of the sites, and then queue up some questions. Then we're going to switch to taking questions.
So obviously, the more tools you have when you get to a location, the more you have to work with to get a reliable connection when you need it. But one of the things that you can use in advance is a little bit of research about the locations you're going. And we have a whole guide at rvmobileinternet.com/travel planning that goes over some of the tools out there. So looking at campground reviews or marina reviews can give you, people leave reports now of like, hey, AT&T worked great here, or Starlink I was able to get online with. So definitely use your favorite campground review sites, Campendium, RV Park Review. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Use your campground reviews.
Do homework in advance.
Now, before we started the Mobile Internet Resource Center a decade ago, in 2010, we launched our own app. It's available on iOS and Android. and we take the carrier's coverage maps. We're partnered with Ookla, so we get official maps from Ookla to display them on your device, and you can scroll in on the type of coverage you're looking for. So Chris right now is looking at Verizon's mid-band 5G coverage only, and he just added in their nationwide and their LTE. So you can find the type of coverage that you need for each of
T-Mobile,
your
you can
carriers.
see how much more coverage T-Mobile has. It's like T-Mobile's got a ton of mid-band, ton of 5G. So finding the good coverage and finding this, and these maps aren't required. You don't have to be online to have our app work. That was the whole goal. We wrote this before the 4G era. We wrote this in the 3G era was when we first wrote this app. You want to have the maps in your pocket on your phone. And we've kept it up. We put out updates every quarter with new maps, and we still find this to be really useful for researching where we're going to go.
Now they are based on the carrier's maps, which are in part marketing, and they're usually optimistic. But it gives you an idea if you can expect to get online. And we typically find with the tools that we travel with, we can usually get online with what coverage says we should.
And so it is, and also particularly if you're trying to seek out where the good mid-band 5G, that's where you're going to see the super fast speeds. It's like, hey, this here might have it, and you can see where T-Mobile's got a lot of rural areas that have the mid-band 5G, and you'd be surprised where you can get sometimes 200, 300, 400 megabits per second, and even like we've been places with mid-band 5G on Verizon where I've seen 80, 90, 100 megabit per second uploads, which is insane, and the sort of speeds that Starlink can never even come close to on the upload side, which we're kind of excited when we run across crazy uploads like that. But now, I guess let's go jump over to Q&A and see.
Yes, queue up your questions if you've got questions for us. We're happy to stick around and answer some.
And I just also, before I want to call out, somebody sent us a super chat, which we didn't even ask for. So, Shay, thank you so much. I didn't even realize we get a pop-up for that. So that was really cool to see that come
through. So yeah, feel free to, this content can reach other folks better if you give us a thumbs up. You leave a comment or chat in there, and I guess super chats are awesome too. So thank you for that. We will split all super chat money with our entire team. That goes into our bonuses. So anything that we make on the YouTube channel goes into the bonuses for our team. So thank you for that. You have any questions?
Some questions. We got one from Daniel, who actually helps us keep the website alive. So
yes, and this project, by the way, was prompted by Daniel. He gave us the idea of like, why don't you record and let us know what works at each location. He had proposed this idea to me a couple of almost a year ago, I think, or so.
And so he asked a question about the new InstiConnect. That is, we've got a great video in the new InstiConnect version came out that actually has a power over Ethernet modem. So the InstiConnect is no longer tied to its own internal router. It lets you go from the InstiConnect to a Peplink, and we just treat it like another WAN source. So we would turn it on and have a plan via the InstiConnect. Mostly on this trip, we use the InstiConnect with InstiConnect's their own data plan, because they sent us their plan for testing, which is a T-Mobile based plan. The one thing I really find frustrating about the InstiConnect is that you have to disconnect all the internal antennas and do a whole disassembly to change the SIM card. So that's why I didn't bother swapping in Verizon, swapping in AT&T, a lot of places in the InstiConnect. But the InstiConnect actually works really, really well because the modem is integrated into that outside box.
So Chris will be sharing his hands-on testing notes in our member forums. We have a testing in progress forum, so he'll be updating that soon.
It actually already updated.
He already updated, so all of his testing notes are already in there. So if you're interested in the testing that we've been doing on the InstiConnect or any of the new gear that we have, if you're one of our members, go check that. All of our reviews and hands-on testing notes are member exclusive. So,
but our first looks and all the news side of things are public. So we've had a great hands-on look at the InstiConnect that is on the public video, which I think somebody threw out into a link there. So there it is, the InstiConnect. Let's see, another question. Get asked this all the time about what do you think about T-Mobile 5G home internet? Do you think it's worth it with the new data cap?
Okay, so T-Mobile just increased their price on their unlimited home internet and business internet plans from $50 a month to $60 a month. That's standalone. If you have other lines of smartphone service, you can get discounts with it. In that, they rolled out a new 1.2 terabyte clause in there that says if you exceed that, you're considered a heavy data user and you may see slower speeds as comparison to someone else. If you're using 1.2 terabytes of data and you're thinking that that's not worth $60 a month, then I'm going to say you haven't priced other data plans that are out there. So yes, it is totally still worth it. Just keep in mind, T-Mobile home internet is intended for home service fixed location. It is very clearly stated in their terms. They just have not enforced it. And it is currently being used by a lot of RVers and boaters as a internet option.
And the other frustrating thing with the T-Mobile home internet is it's tied to their router, which makes it a little bit more awkward to combine it with other things. You know, combining it with Starlink and stuff like that. You've got to jury rig things together. The T-Mobile's business internet, which is the same plan, but the business, not the small business, but the business version, is
That's what
just
we
a
use.
SIM card. Same plan, same priority, same limits and stuff. But you can use that SIM card in your own router, so you have a lot more control over things, and then you can much better bond it with Starlink or bond it with another cellular thing or split your data across. You can get 2 of those plans, and then you've got 2.4 terabytes if you're concerned about the limits and stuff. So we definitely prefer the business version of that plan, but a lot of RVers and boaters are using the T-Mobile home internet just because it's so easy to get, and T-Mobile is not enforcing that you must use it at your registered residential location restriction. Let's see.
Question on the coverage app. I have the iPhone app, but only see the Roam LTE and nationwide options available. I'm not seeing the others you showed. So to get the mid-band and the millimeter wave, that is part of our HD description. So subscription, not description, of the subscription. So the standard app includes the nationwide coverage. If you want the other one, that gives you more frequent updates and higher resolution maps. That's included with our subscription.
Yeah, so you can see it. You hit the little I, and you can just subscribe and get a cheap annual subscription. The free version of the app has been getting free updates. For some people, can get
not
paid.
Free. It's a one-time purchase of
$2.99. Exactly.
If you,
no, but I'm saying you get the updates for free. Some people had the app for 10 years now.
And we first launched coverage in 2010. They did not have subscription options. It was only one purchase price. So the only way to honor our existing customers was to do a subscription. So we had to add in some premium features. That's one of the ones that we did.
Yep. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. And we see somebody has just got their Peplink B1 Soho. That's a brand new router from Peplink that is actually really great for combining Starlink with other things.
Right. It has no cellular modem inside of it. It's a high-end router with Wi-Fi 6, gigabit Ethernet ports, USB tethering, and it is only $299. So you get all the Peplink wonderfulness of bonding and load balancing and all those options, and then you can link in other options like Starlink, T-Mobile Home Internet, or other Ethernet-based WAN sources. So it's a great new option that's out there. We just did a video on it, I think last week when it was released, and Andy McNabb on our team is going to be getting our evaluation unit, so we should have our first look video on it pretty soon.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, cool for you. You must have got it really early. Somebody here is asking about WineGuard. They just got a WineGuard system on top of their new Class A, and is it worth using as their internet? So this is probably the WineGuard 360, I'm guessing, and it's old technology.
Yes. So if you've got the 360, then you can get a different gateway with it, the 5G, or if you've got the WineGuard Connect 2, that is just a really old LTE-4 modem inside of it, which is like 10 years old.
Yes.
We consider the WineGuard systems to be base level internet. If you have more robust needs, then we would advise you to go look into other options, because it's probably not going to serve your needs on the road. But if you have basic needs, you just need to get to a campground and get online to, check email and stuff like that. It's probably fine.
And another question about how the InstaConnect performed. And overall, we've been impressed with the InstaConnect PoE. That is a great option to add 5G to an internal router because the modem is outside, so you don't have any antenna cable
and for comparison, it's like $700, so it's a really great value, especially when you compare it to like Peplink's version, which is the HT Dome, and it's like $2,000 or $3,000. So it's a great option to even use with Peplink gear.
Yeah, no, it actually works. Now that they have the PoE, it's like an InstaConnect plus Peplink gear is a great combination. I do like it. Now we got more questions pouring in. I'm not going to go too far back because we got new ones popping in. So what is this one here?
How can you improve the reception on the M6? I'm assuming you're using the Netgear M6, which is AT&T's mobile hotspot device. Ordered a 2x2 antenna for mobile must-have. Yeah, that's about your only option. The downside of using a mobile hotspot device, which is not like a router, it's a small router. It's a little box, has a battery, and it takes cell signal and creates a Wi-Fi hotspot network, is all of the options that are on the market only have 2 antenna ports, whereas all current LTE and 5G benefits from 4 antennas. So it only has 2 ports. So when you're putting 2 antennas on an external, you're cutting off 2 of the internal antennas inside of it. So you're actually you could see slower speeds when using external antennas with it. So you have to test it. So basically, that's about your only option is using an external antenna or getting the device itself into a better signal area, so like in a window or something
Right.
like that.
A little.
Otherwise, we recommend if you really want to optimize your signal, that's when you should go to cellular routers that give you the 4 antenna ports.
And also cellular routers often will give you the ability to customize the bands you're connecting to as well. And that sometimes is the most important thing for tweaking your signal in challenging areas, is being able to get off of congested bands or just do a little experimentation to, like on AT&T, force yourself onto FirstNet and band 14. So there's a lot more. There's more advanced tools you can graduate to that give you a lot more capability.
Yeah, but the M6 is a great mobile hotspot
yeah.
device. It just, you are limited in what you can do with it. It's a great consumer device.
So we have a request from Daniel to plug the Plan Picks guide.
So if you go to rvmobileinternet.com/planpicks, that is where we keep all of our current top pick data plans for all the cellular carriers, as well as Starlink options. Then he is a fan of our frequently updated member-only spreadsheet, where we compare all the plans on a spreadsheet, and that is in our member areas. And that is a behemoth to keep up to date. Our team member Jen does that. That's like a huge task for her. Every time we have an update on plan, we have to go in and update that guide, and it's a lot to keep updated.
And so they got a question from Kirk about the LoRa or LoRaWAN. This is kind of a version of Wi-Fi for Internet of Things devices that is a longer range but super low speed Wi-Fi. So it's not really useful for mobile internet data for anything interactive in humans. It's more for keeping thermostats online and things like that. So we have a little bit about it in our Wi-Fi guide because it's one of the official Wi-Fi standards, but it's never caught on except for kind of industrial uses, and it's not something that is consumer applicable yet, so it's not something we pay close attention to other than just explaining it in our one guide.
And Mark Moyers, can T-Mobile Internet router use an external antennas? So last year, T-Mobile did release 2 gateways that have external antenna ports on them. The trouble is finding how you can actually request one of those 2 models. So if you look at our T-Mobile Home Internet Gear Center entry, they're all documented there. So you can look at it, and you can try to find a rep who can order that specific one. But really, if you want to use T-Mobile Home Internet's plan on the road, and you want to use it in a more high-end device, be able to control the bands, the band locking, use it with other WAN sources, look into the business option where you can take that SIM card and put it in your own device.
It's the same price data plan. So
you don't get a free gateway out of it. You have to buy your own hardware, but you're in control of it. And then you're going to get the antenna port. You're going to be able to use the antennas you want to use with it.
Okay, and so we're going to kind of get into some advanced questions here, but Steve is asking, can you use a corporate VPN with speed fusion bonding? Speed fusion bonding is Peplink's technology that combines multiple connections together. So as I said, we've combined up to 11 different connections with our BR2 Pro. So Starlink combined with AT&T, combined with Verizon, combined with, you can bring everything together. And that just makes kind of a big virtual pipe. It is a VPN behind the scenes, but if your corporation requires a separate VPN, most VPNs will just run fine on top of another VPN under the stack. It doesn't know that there's another VPN beneath it. So it will probably work if there's weird compatibility issues. Again, that's the sort of really advanced stuff that you could potentially ask. We've got a tech support area in our member forum. We've got representatives from Mobile Must Have who do some deeper Peplink tech support.
And we have a whole Peplink resource center that we've created with Mobile Must Have. We do a monthly webinar with our members going over topics like that. So we can dive deeper into using a Peplink, which is designed really for enterprise level stuff. We dial it down for consumer level for RVers and boaters. So that's our specialty. We have a whole Peplink resource center that our members can dive into, get a lot of hands-on experience. And of course, Mobile Must Have does provide a tech support to our members in the forums, regardless if you purchase your equipment from them. And they present a 10% discount to our members on gear. So if you're considering Peplink gear, several of our vendors do offer 10% discounts on Peplink gear, and that can exceed the cost of your membership with us. So, and we don't get kickbacks on that. So
that's just a kind of a gift that passes on, which is nice. I'm going to wrap up a few more questions here. Somebody's saying Cricket doesn't like Peplink routers for a couple of years now. Cricket, they've gotten really stingy with how their plans work. So the workaround is find a different plan than Cricket.
Right. So Cricket dropped supporting, except for a few AT&T compatible mobile hotspot devices several years ago. So if you want to use the Cricket Simply Unlimited Data, or it's not unlimited, it's like a 150 gigabyte plan. It's like 50 or 90 bucks a month. I forget the cost off the top of my head. You have to use a mobile hotspot device that is compatible with their plan.
They've got a white list of only certain devices.
Right. So if you want to use other devices, then you need to seek other plans. So AT&T has one direct. There are other plans out there. So look at our top pick data plans guide. We have marked what devices they are compatible with. We also have a guide specifically for routers, and it's in our Peplink Resource Center, but that one is public, and we track in there what are the router ones. And you can go to our top pick data plans and just use the routers check mark, and you can find data plans that are specifically for routers.
Yep, it's just Cricket being Cricket.
Yep.
Nice comment from Katie. Highly recommend your membership. Thank you. And yeah, we try to make it really worthwhile. So we've been doing it for 10 years.
All right. I think that is.
We've got a. Again, some questions about adding Pi-hole with Docker to the routers. And actually, I think we have a thread in our forums talking about Pi-hole inside of Docker on some of the Peplink routers. So there's a lot of advanced topics on Peplink stuff you can dive into. And there's all sorts of fun things there. But I think that will kind of basically going to wrap up the questions here. And
so thank you for joining our first live broadcast here on the Merck YouTube channel and Facebook page, wherever you're tuning in from. Thank you for that. Let us know in the comments. Did you enjoy this? Is it worthwhile? Should we do these again? We have some other topics in mind to do in the future.
We might even do interviews. Who knows? There's a lot of fun stuff we can do by live video like this. If this is we've kept the Merck channel focused on short news things in the past, but if the audience likes cool stuff like this, let us know. We'll do more.
And don't forget, if you do want to become a member, we are offering a $10 savings off of a new membership this evening. Use the code MERCLIVE.
I think we're going to keep that code live for a month.
Yeah, for probably through the end of the month. So come and join us over at the Mobile Internet Resource Center. Go further with our content. If you're looking at Peplink gear, you're looking at Starlink, we cover InstaConnect, we do InvisiGig, MoFi. We cover all the gear that's out there. Yes. We have it all in our stuff, and we have a lot of hands-on time with a lot of it. And if we don't have hands-on time with it, we usually have members who do. And it is a community where we share. And it is a focused place just on mobile internet for our
That's why we're not selling things and we're not focused on affiliates, because we want to cover everything and we want to steer people to what best fits them, not what is somebody trying particular to sell to them or give a kickbacks on. So that's our model. We like it. It's worked out really well. We've got a lot of wonderful members who've supported us. So thank you if you're a member.
Thank you for making it possible. 10 years we've been doing this. And some people in the beginning, they told us, people will pay you to tell them what mobile internet to get. And others said, oh, that'll never work. And it has. So 10 years later, we have a team of 8 that make it possible. Daniel Pentecost also helps behind the scenes, making sure the website keeps cranking along. So thank you, Daniel, for that. It's been a joy to run. It combines our passions. I mean, we love travel, obviously. We love technology. And we both have
geeky backgrounds with mobile tech. So
we love helping you keep connected. So come and help make it all possible, whether you want to join as a member or just leave comments, share this content. If you see people asking questions in groups and forums, let them know about us. Sharing our content is one of the greatest gifts that you can give back to the community, and that doesn't cost you anything.
And because we don't believe in advertising, we believe in word of mouth, and just in general, because that's what we magnify people's word of mouth. And so spread the word about us, because that's the best way you can help us. So thank you. And we're going to wrap this up with just kind of that little 2-minute video of clips from our road trip and various places we got connected. And then so it ends and we're logged off. So
thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you down at the next live if this worked out. Take care.